In this part of the tutorial, we're going to reintroduce Booleans, but in Android this time instead of iOS. So we're going to do that by declaring and initializing a Boolean variable, and then we'll change its value later on in the code. So we're going to use an example of the isLoggedIn variable again to demonstrate where Booleans could be useful and are used in code. Now let's introduce the Boolean type variable in the Android portion of Xamarin Studio. So we've seen what Booleans look like in the Apple version or in the iOS version. They're not so different in the Android version, so let's just start off by creating some Booleans. So let's use the isLoggedIn example again. So let's have this be false to start off with. So again, we have the type being Boolean here, and it's in this kind of turquoise color. And we have our name of the Boolean, that's isLoggedIn, and we're giving it the value of false instead of true. So if we want, what we can do is we can just assign it down here if we want. So we can have it, in fact, we can have it print out, so we can have the text be equal to isLoggedIn, and then, so again, same thing, we have to do the toString function. So before in iOS, we didn't have to include this line here. We would only have to have this line basically, which would find the label and it would call the text portion and assign it this value. However, in Android, we have to first initialize that text, that particular text input box, and we're going to call it text. That's all this line is doing, is it's referring to that text inbox, that text box, and calling it text, and then we're just modifying the text there. So if we go to our Solutions Explorer again, and we select variables tutorial.droid, and we'll say run with, and we'll choose the Nexus S KitKat. And it's a little slower than the iOS version. Here we go, and we get false being printed out. This is because our variable's false, because we've given it that value here, and we're just having it print out down here. Now again, if we want to reassign it, we'll just say isLoggedIn equals true. So perhaps we have entered our password and username correctly, and now we're logged into the system. So now let's see how the value changes. We'll stop running it and then rerun it. And here we go. As you can see, the values now changed to true. So again, Boolean values can take on false or true, and those only. If we try and give it, for example, a string, which we'll talk about later, then we'll get some kind of an error when we try to run it. In fact, you can see the error right there. It's underlined and it says cannot convert from type string to Boolean. So once again, has to be true or false. We can give it whatever name we want. It's of type Boolean, and that's just about all there is to Booleans. So let's just change this to false, just to leave you guys on the right note. In this part of our tutorial, we introduced Boolean variables in Android instead of iOS. So what we did is we created an isLoggedIn Boolean variable, which we initialized to be false, and then we changed it to true and printed out both values. So by now you should be able to discuss where we could use Booleans in code and why they're useful, as well as declare and initialize Boolean values. Remember, Booleans are either true or false, and they're very useful for representing situations where you have to test if a condition is true, such as again an isLoggedIn variable where you have to be logged in, so the variable has to be true if you want to be able to access your account.